All right. What is good, everybody, and welcome back to the mock drafts. Hopefully, this is coming out by the latest Wednesday, if not Tuesday. But we're going to start off basically just hot off the gun right now. We're already going to give Caleb Williams to the Bears. We know that's going to be a trend. Well, I don't even have to really get into it with Caleb Williams. You guys have heard enough about him. We know the prospect he is. We know the character he is, which is really the most questionable thing that a lot of people have. But I think that he can be a good QB1. I think they should have kept Justin Fields at the end of the day. I understand that he was going to have to get paid, but he had the team behind him. He had talent. Now, it was a bit rough around the edges at points, but I think he could have gotten even better over the seasons of him having the contract. And maybe even you could have told him, look, 2-year extension, $25 million a year, and then after that we can talk again. I don't think you would have had to do the whole 9 yards necessarily, but they chose to just trade him. They didn't want to deal with that whole situation, but we know Caleb Williams, none of these other QBs are really going to be touching that position for the Chicago Bears, if we're being quite honest. But hopping to the next pick with the Washington Commanders, you have two QBs, and I honestly, I've even heard of J.J. McCarthy going second. I've heard J.J. McCarthy going in the top 3. Now, he's definitely not going 1, so it's either 2 or 3. And I just don't know. But I'm going to try to do it in a way that of what they think is going to happen, what I think is going to happen, and what the teams have already said about J.J. McCarthy. And a lot of teams have been talking very well about him. And it's basically been Jim Harbaugh talking a big game about J.J. McCarthy this entire offseason. And he started off talking about Justin Herbert in every conference. And now it's just been J.J. McCarthy. Like, Justin Herbert just doesn't exist. But J.J. McCarthy, I mean, he's good. But we'll talk more about it whenever he gets picked. The Washington Commanders, though, have a pick between Drake Maye and Jaden Daniels. I don't think they try to go JJ. They want, a perennial QB that, rivals the top QBs in the league, like what a lot of people think Caleb Williams will be immediately. But Drake Maye, the type of QB that has a lot of ability, possibly is a big risk because he seems to be inaccurate on the shorter passes, on the layups per se, if you want to say that. And he has good deep yards. He's second in that, 1452, right? And then you have Jaden Daniels, who has just about the same, but a lot better stats on other areas. The big throw rate, 8.4%, 1.6% turnover-worthy play rate, 92.2 deep grade, while Drake Maye had a 97.1. Overall, he had a good season, except for the end of it. It seemed like he kind of fell off, and Jaden Daniels just seemed to get better every game. So, and one of his best games was against Alabama, out of all teams. And I think what I'm going to go with this one is going to be Jaden Daniels. He has the ability to get out the pocket. It's almost the same type of build as what they tried to say with Lamar Jackson, and then ended up getting Lamar Jackson booted to basically the last pick in the first round. And they think that he's probably not going to be able to take the big league hits. But I think Jaden Daniels is more than capable of doing so out of LSU. I have a lot of confidence in him with the Washington Commanders. I don't think they can go wrong with either of these QBs. Now, if they try to take J.J. McCarthy, I'll be questioning them. But I'm going to go Jaden Daniels in this mock draft to the Commanders. And that leaves the Patriots at the number 3 overall pick. Now, they've had some conversations with J.J. McCarthy. We already know that they're going to go QB at this position. That's without a doubt in my mind. But they've had a meeting with J.J. McCarthy recently. Both J.J. and Jared Mayo said it was a very good conversation. J.J. said that it would be an honor for him to be a part of such a prestigious organization. He's saying all the right things. The man has been trained. He has been PR trained. And so is Jim Harbaugh, talking about his own QB that he used to have. It's not his QB now, but I'm very convinced that if he had the chance at that 5th overall pick, he would take J.J. McCarthy if he didn't have Justin Herbert. Because if you just pass up on Justin Herbert and you get J.J. McCarthy, I don't know what to tell you, Jim. But the Patriots might not even be looking for a J.J. McCarthy type of quarterback. Now, for me, JJ is good at being what you need him to be. I don't think he's going to go above and beyond like a Drake Maye possibly, because Drake Maye has the ability to, and they kind of treat him like how they were treating Josh Allen coming into the draft, in his draft, and saying that he could be a project. He has a big arm, but some of the shorter passes he doesn't get it out, or doesn't get it accurately out. And I think Drake Maye is a bit better of a prospect at this point compared to Josh Allen coming out of the draft. I think Brian Daboll helped a lot with that. And maybe even the new head coach and possibly the coaching staff could help Drake Maye in just strengthening his weaknesses and being that next Josh Allen, because every team is trying to look for a QB that rivals the top ones, like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, all those type of players. And the top 3 picks have to be those type of guys. Now, that being said, I am going to go Drake Maye to the Patriots. I think it'll be a decent fit. I think they still need to do some work in terms of the receiving core in the rest of the draft, because I don't think they're going to get in free agency anymore. But Drake Maye I'm going to have going to the Patriots, although they did have a good conversation with J.J. McCarthy. But that brings us to the 4th overall pick, which has been the normal trade-up spot for the Vikings at the moment. But in this, I'm not really thinking that the Cardinals are going to risk not getting one of the top wide receivers. You're trading all the way down to the 11th spot, basically guaranteeing yourself to go all defense until possibly the end of the round, that you can get 2 offensive players, but it's going to be maybe even a Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, these aren't bad wide receivers, but you want that wide receiver 1 since you got rid of Rondale Moore. You don't have Hollywood Brown anymore. So who is Kyler Murray going to depend on when he needs to throw up the ball? He doesn't have anybody like that right now. And I think Marvin Harrison Jr. could fill in that role very well, because that's basically what he did at Ohio State. He was able to get any ball that was in the vicinity of him and just reach out and get it and toe tap almost every single time. Now, yes, Malik Neighbors is rivaling him right now, because a lot of scouts love the fact that he tested. Marvin Harrison did not. And Malik Neighbors is very explosive. He had a 4.35 official time at his pro day. That's very impressive. And I don't know what Marvin Harrison possibly would have gotten. Maybe that's why he didn't do it, because he was afraid of the risk of him dropping. I don't see him dropping. I think a lot of teams see the dependability that he can have with a QB, especially a QB like Kyler Murray, who used to throw it up a lot to DeAndre Hopkins. Okay, I apologize if my screen was a little messed up for a bit. But I don't know what just happened, because I looked over and I saw my face cam was like basically out of the way, like, of the screen, and like the whole draft screen was basically taking up most of it. But back to what I was saying, I basically said what I needed to about Marvin Harrison Jr. Malik Neighbors, great prospect, great wide receiver, almost rivaling Marvin Harrison at this point. But I'm going to have Marvin Harrison Jr. going to the Cardinals. I don't think they risk it at that point. Now, with that, I'm sure this is why Jim Harbaugh talked a big game about J.J. McCarthy. Now they have an opportunity to trade him to the Vikings. And that could bring in 3 first-round picks, whether it's the one at the end of this draft that we have going on right now, the 23rd, or it's the 11th and 2 future ones. It's like a pick-your-poison situation. But I think that this is going to happen for sure if J.J. McCarthy somehow drops to that spot. And it only makes the most sense because at the 5th spot, they don't have any like guaranteed players that they are going to get. Malik Neighbors could be it. I mean, that's been the majority. Marvin Harrison is not here. Joe Alt, a lot of fans do not want Joe Alt to be the pick of the 5th. I mean, they know that he's a very good player. But it's just not. With the way that all the wide receivers have just disappeared at this point, it's just not something that the fan base wants. And if you don't go with what the fan base wants at this point, you're not going to have an audience. And they hardly have one as is. Brock Bowers was another one that I had going for a while. But we're going to go with the Minnesota Vikings. Trading for that pick, 11, 21st, and the 1st overall pick. I'm sure it'll be more. This is just the basis of it. This is the top picks of it. It might even be a 3rd. either this year or in 2025. It's all up to the Vikings and the Chargers and their negotiations. But I'm going to go ahead and do this trade. This is only of significance right now. And the Vikings are going to be taking J.J. McCarthy. Now, he could fill in the role of Kirk Cousins very well. He can get you the first down if he needs to. He can get out and run with a lot of effort to get that first down as well. He has a lot better decision-making than he did in the past. But he still needs to get it a little more consistent and in the pre-snap as well. He has a good throwing motion. He can get it into the tight windows and doesn't have much fear in that as well. And if you have a wide receiver like Justin Jefferson, and hopefully you keep him on the team, that could help out a lot. He hangs in the pocket for a very long time comfortably and isn't afraid whenever he's in the pocket. And he has talent. He has a lot of talent. I wouldn't put him on the same level as the other QBs that got taken top 3. But if you want to keep Justin Jefferson, you have to show some effort. And that means with that capital that you just got, you're going to be trading it away to get to that spot to jump over the New York Giants, who possibly would have taken J.J. McCarthy if he would have fell there. And now he won't, because he's going to be going to the Minnesota Vikings, filling in that spot that Kirk Cousins left, because Jaron Hall, I don't think, is going to be your starting QB. Let's be honest here. I wouldn't recommend doing any. I wouldn't recommend starting any of the QBs that you have currently on the Minnesota Vikings. Now, if you want to tank, that's you. But Justin Jefferson might actually leave if you do that. But the New York Giants, now on the clock as well, number 6 overall pick. And this is where I have Malik Nabers definitely going. They don't have a wide receiver 1. They seem to haven't had a wide receiver 1 ever since Odell Beckham Jr. And Malik Nabers has that explosiveness that you need for a QB to depend on, and he can get open as quick as possible, and also just with his route running. He's very, very talented as a wide receiver out of LSU. And it seems like LSU is getting better and better with getting these prospects or getting these wide receiver prospects out of high school, because Malik Nabers is very talented. 4.35, like I said. The New York Giants could use that type of wide receiver on their team to help out Daniel Jones. And if not, you get a QB in the next draft, or even later in the draft. You can get like a Spencer Rattler. And we are going to be having a 2-round mock draft soon enough. It might even be next week. Who knows? I'm going to try to do it when I come back from this trip. And I'm getting these videos recorded so I can record them while I'm away. And I can make sure that I get these out for you guys. And if it doesn't end up coming out this week, then it definitely is going to come out on Monday if I'm not able to record it or edit it. But Malik Nabers is going to the New York Giants at the 6th overall pick. Just too easy of a pick there since he already dropped there. And the 7th overall pick is also just as easy because they want to improve their offensive line. And signing offensive line players is basically taking a leg and an arm to give them the money, like Teron Armstead for the Dolphins now. And Joel is just the best situation at the moment. You can put him with Peter Skoronski, since Joel is a left tackle. I think it'll be a match made in heaven. And yes, you did lose some offensive line players to other teams like the Dolphins and things like that with Cushenberry. But I think Joel gets that tackle position right immediately, because he has been one of the top tackles for a very long time, and I have a lot of confidence in him helping that Tennessee Titans team as much as possible. They could go wide receiver and things like that, maybe even Brock Bowers at that, but I just like Joel a little too much in Tennessee. And the Falcons are another, I would say, secured pick. I would be surprised if they go any other route, but I'm going to have them going defensive line for sure. Not Latu. I don't think it's going to be Latu. Dallas Turner tested very well, and I think he's one of the more talented pass-rushing defensive ends in this class, and he can also drop into coverage if you need him to, if you desperately need him to. I just think that he's very good at being an edge and being that even 3-4 edge at that. I've said that a billion times. But Dallas Turner to the Atlanta Falcons to help that defensive line that's been struggling for years on end. Grady Jarrett has really been the only bright spot in that defense, and or defensive line, and they really got to improve that. That's not going to help them whatsoever. But now the Chicago Bears are now on the clock, and a lot of people say Rome Odunze, and I think I even went Rome Odunze in the last draft, but that's not going to be the case in this one. That's not going to be the case. I'm going to go defensive line, and it's going to be Johnny Newton. This is one of the more not so appealing defensive line classes in terms of defensive interior. They're very undersized. The only one that doesn't seem as undersized is Devondre Sweat. He's about 6'4", like 340, but he's also a little rough around the edges. Johnny Newton can get in. He's a very talented defensive lineman. It's just his size and his weight that doesn't really help him as much. He's 295, 6'2". I mean, but his pass rushing tools and block shedding ability allow him to be very productive in any alignment. 3 to 5 technique player, yeah. He's very talented. I think he can play for that Chicago Bears defense very efficiently, and he's not going far, coming from Illinois. And now the New York Jets are on the board, and you can see wide receiver is one of their top ones because Garrett Wilson is really the only one that has been of any significance in that Jets offense. Yes, Brock Bowers is here, but they have a tight end already. I'm blanking on his name, but Rome Odunze is a very good wide receiver to pick at this position. Even could be that that receiver that can be on the opposite side of Garrett Wilson and complement him very well. I like Rome Odunze throughout that whole playoff run that they had. I like Rome Odunze during the season mostly. I mean, he, as you can see, it's kind of like here and there. But 21 contested catches is the best in the draft. It's first, 783 deep yards, 23 deep catches. It's just, you need that. You need that. Garrett Wilson can get open short and middle and basically anywhere you need him. Rome Odunze is like the Mike Williams for the Jets. And they have Mike Williams. So Mike Williams can even teach Rome Odunze at that. But I think Rome Odunze can do a lot more than just what Mike Williams tended to do for the Chargers. But we're going to take Rome Odunze there. Might clash a little bit with Mike Williams. But Mike Williams is only there for about a year. So I wouldn't trip too much about it. And now at the 11th spot, the Chargers can still get the player that they want. And I think the player that they wanted this entire time is Brock Bowers. Now, they would be testing it with the New York Jets at the 10th spot. Tyler Conklin, that's who the name was. Brock Bowers, though, one of the best tight end prospects that we've seen in a very long time. Only had 3 drops throughout the whole season. Best game was against Auburn. Didn't perform very well against Alabama, though, which is a little concerning. But that was the game that they got basically, like, booted out of the playoffs because they lost to Alabama. But I have Brock Bowers as one of my favorite tight end prospects ever. Very talented. Now his blocking's a little iffy, but receiving-wise, speed-wise, he can do it. I had the Dolphins trading up to get him at one point. I think it was like the 13th pick that I traded with. I mean, if it drops to that point, I think they would take him. But I'm going to have Brock Bowers going to the Chargers at this position. It just helps Justin Herbert that much more. You already kind of traded down and didn't get that wide receiver prospect that you probably could have gotten, like Malik Neighbors. Brock Bowers fills in that role just as fine. I like Brock Bowers a lot. I might even like him a lot more than Malik Neighbors, if I'm being honest with you. But Denver Broncos are now on the clock. You can get mad about that all you want. Let me know down in the comments what you think, if Brock Bowers or Malik Neighbors is a better pick for the Chargers at this point. But the Denver Broncos, basically in desperate need for a QB. And Michael Penix seems to get more and more hype. Now, do they reach on a QB? I'm not sure. And I don't know really necessarily what team is going to want to do something here. I could even went Fuaga for the Jets. And maybe even one of these teams trade up to get one of these tackle positions, like Fuaga or Fashanu. There's like a new way to say it now, but I can't remember. I don't want to be biased with the whole Dolphins situation, but they do need offensive line desperately. I might even have the Broncos reaching. And kill me if you want. Bo Nix is the most pro-ready QB in this draft class, I would say. I just don't see any team trying to trade with the Broncos to help them out with not reaching on that. So they might just have to bite the bullet, take Bo Nix. I mean, it's not a difficult bite the bullet. I mean, he was first in turnover worthy play rate, 749 on screen yards, which is a little concerning. The drop rate was 7%. He had Troy Franklin as wide receiver, but I think the Broncos are so desperate for a QB, they might reach this far. They just might, and I'm going to go with that. Bo Nix, since J.J. McCarthy did not drop to that spot, I'm going to have Bo Nix going to the 12th overall pick. It's a little crazy, but sometimes that just has to happen. Now, the Raiders, since the QBs are basically now off the board, and I don't think Michael Penix is probably going to go until maybe even the Rams pick, cornerback is what you look at, and I've always felt like Nate Wiggins was a good fit for the Raiders, although his run defense in terms of tackling is just going to be non-existent because of his weight. But I think he can bulk up. I don't know if it's just his frame. I just continue to really like the Raiders getting Nate Wiggins. If I'm wrong for that, I don't know. But I don't think they go with the defensive interior. Tackle is not really necessary. And then you just get right back to Nate Wiggins. Like, I don't see Cooper DeJean fitting in there. Quinyon Mitchell, neither. Latu, they have their edge rushers. Fuaga, another guy that just... They have Colton Miller at offensive tackle. Yeah. I'm going to have Nate Wiggins going there. He's good in pass coverage. We realized recently that he was a little lighter than he is supposed to be. I don't think he was 185. I think it was 173 at the combine. I think he was 173. But 6'2", 173, I'm pretty confident was the build there. Out of Clemson, I'm going to have him going to the Raiders. The first cornerback off the board, but possibly not the best one. The Saints are now on the board, though. And this is a position that I don't have Fuaga going. I don't. While Fuaga is one of my favorite ones, I think they go with one of these two. Troy Fautanu or Olu Fashanu, who are very big in size, or very just good size overall. Olu Fashanu is probably the one that you would want to go with at tackle if you really need tackle. And I think that they need to put somebody on the opposite side of Ryan Ramczyk because he needs help. And I think Olu Fashanu is going to fit well in that New Orleans Saints offensive line. He has the talent. Now his run blocking kind of sucks ass, but they can figure that out as they go. Olu Fashanu joining that offensive line of the Saints. And here we are with the Colts pick, and who has been the resounding pick for me and basically for many is Quinyon Mitchell going to the Colts. It's a little too good of a fit. It really is. 3 missed tackles on a whole season is very good. I mean, you rather them not miss any tackles. But 6 foot 196 is absolutely insane in terms of size because he's built. He is extremely built. I think he will fit great in that Colts defense, and they need help at that cornerback position because they keep going back and forth with the veterans that already are leaving. So I definitely do think that Quinyon Mitchell would fit amazing in Indianapolis. But the Seattle Seahawks now on the board. There's some picks that I am kind of just sticking with because I'm just confident that that's going to be it, and that's going to be their pick. And this one's also another one. Jared Verse going to the Seahawks makes too much sense in terms of what they choose for size, what they choose for the type of player, whether it's 4'3", or just the type of edge that they get. It makes too much sense for the size that Jared Verse has at 6'4", 260. A bit on the older side, but he also doesn't have the longest arms. Yeah, I just don't. I can't have anybody else going to the Seahawks at this point. Safety's not an option. Linebacker isn't either. You still have players like Fuaga on the board, who you're surprised that they're even still here. I always have the tackles dropping in these. And maybe even the Seattle Seahawks trade out of this pick and give it to the Dolphins. Because the Dolphins need a tackle. Or offensive linemen in general. And I think getting Fuaga can give you that versatility. Now, it's probably going to be a first and a third. Well, it seems like they accept it. So, I mean, it's a little too easy with that. But this isn't even like a biasy. I just think, why are the Seahawks going to take Jared Verse at that spot? You look at everybody else under that, right? Yeah, the Jaguars. They're going to be taking cornerback. They dropped Darius Williams, who was great last year, or not great, but he was good enough. But now you need another cornerback. Now you need to fill in that spot, and I think I already know who they're going to pick. The Bengals want to pick that, but they're expecting the Seahawks to just stick and pick, get Jared Verse. Who else is going to take what they want? Nobody. Before the Dolphins. And I think this is the perfect opportunity for the Dolphins to swoop in and get that pick from them and get Fuaga. I mean, Fuaga can play tackle. He can also play guard. He's capable of doing it. He is. And they need to get somebody on the opposite side of Teron Armstead. Somebody a little more consistent. But they do have somebody signed already. I just don't know if that's the man that you want to rely on. Now, you can also just put him at right guard. That would also help. He just has the size. He has the ability to be very good in an NFL offensive line with the offensive line IQ and elite strength that he has, which has made him succeed at tackle. But that can help even more at guard since we already kind of have tackles in our positions, and Fuaga can just help as much as he can. And Oregon State, I don't know if he's an alumni, but Fuaga is going to be going to the Dolphins in this one, in my opinion. I just don't see it any other way, because if it's not Brock Bowers, I think they want to still get somebody of significance. And as of right now, the Jaguars, I think, are going to be taking what could be the CB1 just right with Quinyon Mitchell. But Terrion Arnold is a great cornerback overall, and I think he fits the Jaguar scheme well and would play very well with Tyson Campbell. He is 6 foot 196. He can learn from the rest of the cornerbacks in that class and the new defensive coordinator that they're going to have. Terrion Arnold out of Alabama has shown out because Kool-Aid McKinstry was supposed to be the top one. And Terrion Arnold ended up being that man. So he was going to be going to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the Cincinnati Bengals are now on the clock, who could use that tackle. They could very well use it. Now, Fautanu plays left tackle. It seems like Orlando Brown doesn't think he plays right tackle. Or, wait, what does he prefer to play? Orlando Brown Jr. position. Because he confuses me a lot. No shit, it's offensive tackle, but is he a right tackle? In his rookie season, he appeared in all 16 games and started 10 games as a right tackle. So he has the ability to. He does have the ability to. And I think one or the other is going to have to do it. I don't think they go with anything else but offensive line at this point. And they're falling off the board quick. And I think Troy Fautanu is one of the ones left that probably one of the better ones left, to be honest with you. Now, the Dolphins could have just stuck and probably gotten J.C. Latham. I just think Fuaga's really right there with Joe Alt in terms of the top ones. Olu Fashanu just isn't that good at run defending, which kind of like knocks him down for me. But I like Fuaga a lot. But the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm going to have taking... I'm even second guessing it because the run blocking by Fautanu is just... J.C. Latham is good all around. I think I'm going to do J.C. for Cincinnati. Troy might fall significantly further just because of what I just saw with his run defending. But the LA Rams are now on the board, and I think this is going to be a surprise to a lot of people. I like Michael Penix to go to the Rams. Now, there's not going to be a lot of other teams doing it, right? And then you have a lot of choices right now. But who are you going to pick? Maybe try to replace that gaping hole in Aaron Donald leaving and retiring. Could maybe even go offensive line. I think their offensive line is solid. Byron Murphy wouldn't be horrible, but I think Michael Penix might be the way they go. If I end up being right about that and I'm going Byron Murphy the second at this position, I'm going to be pissed. But I'm going to go Byron Murphy the second. They have a gaping hole with Aaron Donald not being there anymore. And they just need to fill that in. They need to figure out their defensive line. I think QB, they can try to trade up in the second to get Penix. If he ends up possibly being on the way to another team, they could just trade up for him. But I'm going to go Byron Murphy for the LA Rams. I think it could help him a significant amount. Some people even have him as their defensive tackle 1. His pass rush is great. His run defense, maybe not the same, but 3-down player. Yeah, I think he would be very good out of Texas. But the Pittsburgh Steelers are now on the clock, and this is a spot that a lot of people have Amarius Mims just coming and playing on the opposite side of Broderick Jones. I wouldn't be so certain about it. Cornerback is also an option. I'm not 100% sure. Tyler Nubin, I like. Cornerback, Kool-Aid McKinstry could work. 6'1", 195. Yeah. Troy is also still here, but that run block rate is kind of messing with me right now. Maybe Amarius Mims is the way they go. I think it is just because of chemistry and also the potential that he has because of his size. 6'7", 340 is just insane. And if you have 2 pillars just on the ends of your offensive line, it helps a lot. Amarius Mims going to the Steelers, yeah, I'm pretty good with that pick. The Seahawks, like I said before, Jared Verse, just too good of a pick for the Seahawks not to get because it just fits them so well. And with a new head coach who used to be a defensive coordinator, I think is going to help them a lot. This could be a very good first round pick that they go with here with Jared Verse. I've liked Jared Verse ever since the beginning of the season. I thought he was very talented. It's unfortunate that he's not a top 5 pick anymore, but we saw a lot of flaws throughout the season with him and his pass rushing ability. But I think the Seattle Seahawks can help with that. The Philadelphia Eagles, who just seem to be the same one that I go with Cooper DeJean. There's just no other scheme that seems to go with him as much as the Philadelphia Eagles one. And he could be the cornerback or he could be the safety. There's either or, but C.J. Gardner-Johnson is back on the Eagles. So preferably he might be cornerback and kind of be like a drop-back cornerback. And I think that he could play very well. And that would still make him the first white cornerback to be taken in the first round. But, yeah, I mean, he it's not like he's not experienced in the corner position. But, yeah, Cooper DeJean, they need to start fixing that cornerback room because they got every little drop out of that cornerback room in its age, especially James Bradbury since he's been getting cooked. And they just need to move on from him, put a young new cornerback who's going to be hungry into that Philadelphia Eagles defense and help them out even more, especially after getting Saquon on offense. You got to do something on defense. They just traded Hassan Reddick. They got Bryce Huff, but I don't know if that's an upgrade, downgrade. Hassan Reddick, I like him a lot. So, but the Chargers now on the clock at the 23rd overall pick, and they got options. They could go wide receiver, or they could just go with the defensive side of things. You could try to replace the whole situation with Khalil Mack. Cornerback is also an option with Kool-Aid McKinstry there. Defensive interior, you would really just be looking at Braden Fisk, who isn't supposed to be getting taken until the second round. And there's not really much after that. I mean, Tavondre Sweat is a good one, but he's like 3rd to 4th round with his size and everything. Cornerback seems like the most viable option. Kool-Aid McKinstry really wouldn't be horrible. And then linebacker would be Peyton Wilson, which I would expect a team like the Chargers to just like absolutely reach on, because you shouldn't really be getting him. I think what I'm going to do is edge, because I don't know how much longer they plan on keeping Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. And with the age that Khalil Mack is at, I'm really between Peyton Wilson and Latu. I'm trying to think of what they would do. And the way that Jake Campbell kind of just jumped all the way to the 12th overall pick because the Lions felt like he was going to be good, and he wasn't even supposed to be taken really in the first round up until probably the end or even the start of the second. I have a feeling that there's going to be another pick like that, and it's probably going to be Peyton Wilson. Now, North Carolina State had 26 coverage stops, 3 interceptions, no TDs allowed. His coverage was a 90.4. His pass rush was 76.8, and a run defense grade was 83.7. Now, he's not bad at all. 6'4", 238. Has the IQ, the movement, and the length. I think he could play well for them, since they do need a linebacker, and that could solve their issues. There's not defensive interior to be taking here. Now, if Byron Murphy was down here, I probably would have taken him for him. But I think in this position, we're going to be going Peyton Wilson. They need to go defense, and I don't think they go Kool-Aid McKinstry at that point. Although they might need it, they might prioritize the box a little more. But the Dallas Cowboys making their basically first move of the season, because they haven't done anything, have a lot of options in terms of replacing. I think Jackson Powers Johnson fits them just well. Ever since the Dolphins moved up to get Fuaga, Jackson Powers Johnson can be a center. He could also be a guard. Now, Graham Barton is really what I've been seeing in terms of his fit. I think he would fit great with them. Jackson Powers played right guard a significant amount in 2022. So, that changes my mind a little bit. I might go just Graham Barton since Tyron Smith left. Or Troy, but I don't know. Troy's like kind of weird to me. He's supposed to be a tackle. I mean, they can take Troy and pick whatever spot they want him to be in, because he's supposed to be a tackle, but he also has the traits of a center or guard. So they could just move him in, maybe even the center. And I think they just have to focus on that. Their offensive line keeps getting weaker and weaker and also gets older. And with Tyron Smith now on the Jets, they have to find something for that because they haven't signed anybody for it. So Troy Fautanu, very talented. As we saw, run block grade is not great at all, but has a lot of snaps at that left tackle position. 3'17", 6'4", out of Nevada or out of Washington. Going to Dallas, Texas. And the Green Bay Packers are now here, who signed Xavier McKinney, so I don't think they will go safety. I think the only right pick for the Green Bay Packers right now is to replace Josh Myers and get Jackson Powers Johnson at that center position. If I'm not mistaken, Josh Myers is the most recent one. Let me just make sure, because I don't want to be wrong about that. Yeah, Josh Myers. Yeah, you need to replace him. He's not... They took him over Creed Humphrey, which is disappointing, but they can make up for it with getting Jackson Powers Johnson. You need a good center, especially in front of a player like Jordan Love. You need to have the best O-line you can possible. And with David Bakhtiari basically leaving, you need to start having a younger one. You have Zach Tom and John Runyon and players like that, but I think it's like, I'm going to say Elton Jenkins, but I know that's not the first name. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, now on the clock, they got their QB back. I could see Kool-Aid going here. Graham Barton is another one that, I mean, I think is just going to stay at tackle. But they also have him possibly moving in. I mean, they have him going to center even. Which isn't a horrible idea, but it's just like, why do that? And you need cornerback regardless. You traded Carlton Davis, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if he went from the Bucs or another team. I'm confusing him with somebody else probably. But I don't know. Latu is also another one. I mean, Latu is more pro ready, and I think that would help them a lot since Shaq Barrett left. Also, Devin White left. So their defense is kind of hindered. And I think Latu is going to help that new age of it. I think he would. And that'll be a good pick for them. The Cardinals, though, now on the clock. Wide receiver most definitely probably won't be the pick. Guard, center, defensive line, and cornerback. Kool-Aid's here. They could even go with another wide receiver, but I don't think they go double wide receiver. I definitely don't. Tyler Guyton is definitely just a tackle. The last pick in terms of what you can do, and put him in a different spot is Graham Barton. Now, do you take Graham Barton over Kool-Aid McKinstry? I'm not sure because if Kool-Aid McKinstry keeps dropping, I mean, it really won't have any much of effect. But I think they need to go cornerback in reality. As much as Graham Barton looks enticing, Kool-Aid McKinstry is very talented. He's always been very talented. And as a true freshman, he was definitely showing out. He has good size and length, but I think he can play well in that Cardinals defense. And the Bills are now on the clock, and I think this is an easy pick because they need wide receiver that bad. And I think Brian Thomas Jr. could complement Stephon. He definitely could. He has long strides. Stephon is more of a figure it out in the short, and then if he needs to, get long. But Brian Thomas Jr. just immediately goes into the long strides. As much as they probably are going to need tackle, they could figure that out later in the draft, possibly. Maybe not. Maybe the latest one that you can get is Jordan Morgan, but we don't know what they're going to choose to pick or choose to do at that point. I like Brian Thomas Jr. to the Bills, though. A lot of people had Keon Coleman going there for a while, but he just keeps dropping down the ranks, unfortunately for him. Brian Thomas Jr. going there. And I had this pick before in the previous draft, and that was Zach Frazier going to the Lions to give that depth for Frank Ragnow. And it might be that again, because I don't know if you just put Graham Barton at center. That just doesn't seem... I don't know. That just doesn't seem right to me. I mean, if we're thinking in that way, yeah, we can definitely put Graham Barton on the Lions and he can figure it out. It's just so questionable to me. But Graham Barton is really one of the last top first-round tackles or offensive linemen that I've seen. So this might be the way that they go just because he brings a lot of versatility in terms of where they can put him. And I think he has the talent to figure it out throughout. So Graham Barton out of Duke, also a very good one. Yeah, we're just going to bring depth to the Lions. I just don't see any other pick that they would go with. Like edge, cornerback. I don't think they go TJ Tampa. And that's really the next best one. I mean, Kamari Lassiter is very good. So is Ennis Rackstraw. Kyrie Jackson's okay. But yeah, we're going to go with Graham Barton to add depth to that offensive line. They probably are going to need it with a lot of those contracts getting hefty. The Baltimore Ravens, though, with wide receiver, offensive line, edge, and cornerback, I don't know what specifically they would need on the offensive line, so I can't really do that at this moment because I definitely am falling asleep as we speak. But edge, I mean, Chop Robinson has always been mine for them to take. Cornerback, TJ Tampa wouldn't be horrible, but I still have Chop Robinson above him in terms of what I would pick. Adonai Mitchell's good. Do they really need wide receiver? What's his height? That's a real question. 6'4". Okay. I like Adonai. To Baltimore. Because I was kind of hesitant on it just because if he's the same height as Zay Flowers, then what's the point? But Adonai brings some size. And that's what I'm going to go with. Adonai Mitchell adding to that offense even more than what it already has. Offensive line, though, for the 49ers is something that I'm considering. Yeah, Tyler Guyton has always been the one that I've been, eyeing for them. Cornerback's also a situation for that. TJ Tampa is legitimate, but he probably won't go until the second round. And, yeah, Tyler Guyton can develop under Trent Williams. He is a right tackle. So, yeah, he can develop under Trent Williams. I think he can fill in very well and figure it out in that 49ers offense. It's not straightforward, but you have a lot of talent on that offense to be able to figure everything out and not feel that much pressure from it. Tyler Guyton to the 49ers, and the Chiefs now on the board, and especially with Rashee Rice under investigation right now, they need to look for a wide receiver. And I think the only good one is going to be Ladd McConkey. I had Xavier Worthy getting taken by them at the end of this mock draft, but we'll probably go with Ladd McConkey, although I do think that Xavier Worthy is going to be taken by them. Ladd McConkey has the talent. He has the ability. Yeah, he's not going to be an X receiver getting a jump ball, but he can figure it out, and he can catch the ball for sure. He doesn't have, like, breakout speed, but, yeah. Maybe I do just keep going with Xavier Worthy, because why wouldn't they go with him? With the way that he broke the record, why wouldn't they? I mean, now they don't have a wide receiver one, technically. But also, Ladd McConkey isn't that either. It would probably be like a Troy Franklin. I've liked Troy Franklin for a while. I think he was very capable. He also made Bo Nix look good, and that's pretty hard to do. We might even go Troy Franklin. If the Rashee Rice situation doesn't go as well as we hope it does, they might have to go for another wide receiver one, and Troy Franklin can be just that. He's around the same height as Rashee Rice. He can do basically the same things, hopefully, for the Chiefs' offense. I think with Patrick Mahomes as your leader, you can figure it out. Troy Franklin going to the Chiefs, I just had to pick a wide receiver at that point. But this was an interesting draft nonetheless. I liked it a lot. If you didn't, let me know down in the comments below. And if you did, let me know down in the comments below. I want to talk to you guys about these mock drafts. I want to see what you guys think in terms of trades, in terms of picks, and who goes where, and things like that. But I enjoyed this thoroughly. While you're down there commenting what you think, please subscribe so you don't miss out on the future mock drafts. And like, so more people can see this, so we can have more of a family discussion here. But yeah, I will see you in the next video. Peace.